Welcome to JackTalk. I'm Carl John Watson, and with me today is Ellie Garcia and Xavier Lindsay. Today we'll be taking a look at a recent shooting in Michigan and what it may mean for the nation's gun laws, the Grammys, and the drama that came after the ceremony. And if you haven't kept up with the NFL, don't worry, we'll be catching you up on the Kansas City Chiefs' historic Super Bowl win. Don't go anywhere. JackTalk starts now. Last Tuesday, a Michigan jury found Jennifer Crumbley, the mother of the school shooter who killed four and injured seven others in 2021, guilty of 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. In a similar case, the father of last July's Highland Park shooter case was accused of wrongdoing after his son killed 7 people and injured 48 more. Robert Cremo Jr. pleaded guilty and agreed to serve 60 days in jail. Michigan's response to the surge of related gun-related crimes includes things like universal background checks, safe storage, and banning guns for those convicted of domestic abuse. According to FBI data, since 2021, there have been 133 mass shootings. Incidents in the U.S. The FBI defines a mass shooting as any shooting where 4 or more people are killed by gunfire. This includes the suspect. Houston's Lakewood Church joined the list of public shootings locations last Sunday when a school shooter entered the church, injuring one man who was sent to the hospital and a child who lays in critical condition. When do we as a nation decide that the laws that placed on guns are too lenient? Texas had its worst school shooting of all time in 2022. This trend has continued for decades and needs to be stopped. Xavier, how do you personally feel about the Texas and its relations to gun laws?
For me, I think Texas has made a bunch of progress when it comes to concealed and carry permits. For me, I am pro-gun. So I think the solution to this situation, well, let's start with the issue of mass shootings. There's been, what you said, 133 mass shootings.
Right.
I think one thing people need to understand when it comes to those mass shootings is that it also includes gang violence. And I think when it comes to gang violence and, shootings when it comes to like shooting up schools, those are two completely different situations that need to be like addressed in different ways. So for example, with gang violence, you have different fighting over territory or fighting over drugs. And then with school shootings, we're dealing with very mentally ill people. I think most of the time when we hear back about these mass shootings, these people had a bunch of different mental health concerns before we even got to the shooting, and nobody addressed that. So I think it's important for us to get to that part and not look at, let's say, making it harder for legal-abiding citizens to carry a firearm. I think that's not the solution at all. And to more like expand on this topic, over 50% of gun deaths are suicide. So I think there is a mental health concern that we need to address here instead of looking at, let's say, banning firearms or putting more restrictions on good citizens.
So, Ellie, I personally am against the increase in gun-related. I'm against the restrictions, or how can I say, the limitations that the Texas government has put on guns. How do you personally feel?
I feel like there needs to be more of a mental health check behind all of it, and I think that anyone who's purchasing a gun needs to have some sort of test, and I don't think you should be able to purchase a gun before you can purchase alcohol in Texas or just anywhere in general. So my thought is maybe some mental health testing and some more background checks for people who are trying to purchase weapons.
So I have written here, Texas legislators have backed school safety bills, and basically that means adding silent panic buttons and active school shooter plans. Why is it that a school should be providing the same restrictions that a bank that would get robbed? There shouldn't be a situation where teachers should be planning or being prepared to be attacked. How do you feel?
For me, I think when it comes to any situation, when you're talking about the public safety of kids, I think we should put a bunch of resources into that and making sure they are safe. Like for the Uvalde shooting, for example, how the person got in was through a cracked door. And like stuff like that just can't happen. That's like a safety issue that we need, like even for my school in high school, people could go through any door at any time. And I think they're not as cognizant of what that can do, of the safety concerns that comes with until something bad happens. So I think that needs to be checked as well. And another thing we need to also understand is that if you're going to plan to restrict law-abiding citizens from having firearms, you're going to leave it up to the police. And usually when the police get there, everything's already happened. People have already died. People have already been injured. And in the case of like the Uvalde shooting, they went in there and listened to kids get shot up and killed, screaming, throwing
So
up,
we
and they didn't do
saying
nothing
we're
about it.
blaming this. We're blaming the police on how long they took, and not the actual gunman.
I think we should look at the trade-off in this particular instance, because if you're going to leave it up to the cops, the stuff has already happened. They have to get there first.
Right.
We should focus on firearms training and helping parents, even like younger children, understand safety, gun safety and things like that before we get to getting rid of their guns, because that's not going to stop a gunman from want to go into a gun-free zone because they know there's no one going to be in there with the gun except for a cop who's obvious that you can shoot. I think we need to be cognizant of that and understand that trade-off.
So Ellie, backpacking off what he said, right? He was stating that the cops need to be basically involved more, and you just said there needs to be more restrictions on the gun laws, right? There's been too many cases where there have been mentally ill people that are between parents giving them their guns. There's just or identification cards being passed off willy-nilly. What precautions would you personally add besides the age precaution?
I think there's both ways to look at it, because if your child is getting a gun, why do they have access to purchase that gun or have that gun in general? I feel like the parents should lock it up. I feel like there should be an age restriction. I just feel like a lot needs to happen.
So, I personally, as I said before, am anti-gun. But our next story comes in, I want to say, towards the Grammys. Ellie, what do you have to say?
Coming up next, we'll be talking about the 66th Annual Grammy Awards and some of the highlights and controversies surrounding the event. Several artists won the first-time records and were broken by others. And one of the most decorated artists of the night was seen leaving in handcuffs. There's lots to talk about, and we'll get right into it after the short break. Stay with us. Jack Talk will be right back. Welcome back to Jack Talk. The 66th Grammy Awards took place last week, and it has everyone talking. This year's awards show took me by surprise with the many twists and turns throughout the night. I was stoked to see Taylor Swift win and the announcement of her new album, The Tortured Poets Department. This will mark her 11th studio album. The album's set to release on April 19th this year. Later in the night, there was an incident where the most awarded rapper got arrested and escorted out for an alleged misdemeanor. Michael Render, known by his stage name Killer Mike, was guided out shortly after winning 3 Grammy Awards. Police allege Render engaged in a physical altercation with a female security guard. Towards the end of the night, Sean Jay-Z Carter gave a 3-minute speech where he addressed the fact that his long-term partner, Beyonce, who has won 28 out of her 79 nominations, has not ever been selected as Album of the Year winner. The couple quietly left soon after the crowd disagreed on his take. What do you think about it, CJ?
So, personally, Killer Mike won, I want to say, Rap Album of the Year. That was a robbery. He had Her Loss in that contention. I want to say Heroes and Villains by Metro Boomin. And then third was Utopia by Travis Scott. Utopia, I want to say, added a lot of significance for Travis as an artist after coming from the Astroworld scandal to then he released an album telling his perspective and giving that insight for fans. And I don't think Killer Mike was able to correctly, or not even correctly, he was able to combat that, if you will. But Xavier, I know you personally disagree.
Yeah, to me this seems like a conscious rap versus like a trap rap type of battle here. And usually the trap rap wins, but for once, conscious rap won, so I'm very happy about that. 'Cause I think Killer Mike was by far the best album on this whole list. Yeah, you said Utopia, Her Loss, and Heroes and Villains. Like, I understand why people like those albums, but, you know, I like a little bit more substance. You know, I like them to say a little bit of something. And you also had tracks with Andre 3000, one of the greatest rappers ever.
Right.
I think a lot of the tracks were just really good. I don't understand the problem, honestly, but I can understand why people would be upset about it, because I didn't expect at all for him to be selected or even nominated. That was a shocker to me.
The fact that he was in contention at all is still kind of surprising to me. But Ellie, you said something about Beyonce. What was that?
Okay, so Beyonce was not chose as Album of the Year. It was Taylor Swift, and
This year.
yes, this year. Well, just in all years, she's never been selected by that. Like, she's never won, and so that was an issue. So Jay-Z went on stage and did a speech, basically saying he said all the good things, and towards the middle of his speech, he had Blue Ivy next to him and said that it just wasn't, whoever won it wasn't worth it, basically. That Beyonce is the person that needs to win it. And there's only been a few black women who have won that award. So it was just kind of, it left everyone distraught that she didn't.
Let's be honest, this isn't the first time the Grammys have robbed people, though.
Well, because I was curious to see if his argument had any merit, I went to, see what she lost against. So it was like, so you have Beyonce in 2010 with her I Am Sasha Fierce album, and Taylor Swift won that with Fearless. I don't know nothing about Taylor Swift. I know you do. How do you feel about the album Fearless? Do you think it would have won over an album that had like Single Ladies on it, Halo,
I
and stuff like
think
that?
15 that was on that album made a big difference on why it won, just because it was absolutely everywhere. And a lot of girls turned 15 that year, so that song was consistently being used. I think Single Ladies was a very great song. I think, honestly, they kind of went hand in hand. It kind of just depended on the last few votes.
And then we have her next one, her self-titled album in 2015. Someone, if anyone knows this, please let me know. Beck and Morning Phase, do either of you know about the album at all?
That's a robbery. If there's
Yeah,
no way we don't, you know about Beck?
Kinda.
Give me no. There's,
Yeah, because
but Beyonce.
if I remember correctly, her self-titled album had Drunk in Love,
No, yeah,
Flawless.
I think she totally deserves
like
that.
that's a little ridiculous.
And if
Okay,
you just go off statistics, 79 nominations.
Yeah, and only getting 28 of those, which
And
I know only is.
Right. She has. Does she not have the most in Grammy history?
She does.
Yeah.
So she has the most Grammys in Grammy history, and to not have won Grammy of the Year once.
see, here's where I
Yeah.
think it gets interesting though, because you had her Lemonade album 2017. She lost to Adele. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair too.
It is Adele.
I think that's fair.
It is Adele.
I think that's fair.
But then there's Renaissance, and she lost to Harry Styles.
I could also see the argument.
I can also see that too, though.
I could
I don't
see-
listen to Harry Styles. I just know the Renaissance. Everybody was banging the Renaissance album because it was all disco.
But it was
whatever.
Harry Styles' first album out of One Direction.
Really?
So, yeah,
okay.
I think that's
So you got to
why.
take all the One Direction fans and then add them in.
Add them into just Harry Styles fans.
I
and
want to
then
say
have
you
that.
also mentioned that Taylor Swift has the most album of the years ever, right? She's
She's won it 4 times.
4 times.
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
That's
A little bit ridiculous. How many albums do you know how many albums she's released? Or a rough-
Well, this will be her 11th studio album, but she does a lot of re-records.
And you're telling me Beyonce has not beaten her once? And I'm not.
She only
I said-
beat her the one time.
Like I said, the Grammys I think have robbed a lot of artists between Kendrick Lamar.
That one was ridiculous.
Right, the Kendrick
like,
Lamar,
Macklemore even
Macklemore,
knew.
that
like,
was
he knew.
really bad. That was really
awful.
bad for rap. But I believe the Grammys have robbed many artists between rap album, song of the year, album of the year, performance of the year. The list could honestly go on, like, for a long time. So I think the how can I say, the source, not the sourcing, but the legitimacy, the backing of the Grammys, I think it's lost some of it, lost some of the charm that it once had.
What about the voting? Do you think that's rigged?
Oh, yeah.
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 I don't know
has to
how
be.
it works, but it has to be.
It has
I
to
don't
be.
know what the standards are.
Because Killer Mike was arrested that night also. And we also have to talk about that.
Yeah,
so.
I have no clue. Like, for one, it's very odd why someone would get arrested right after the
Winning
Grammys.
3 Grammys,
Yeah,
by
so
the way.
I'm
So
sorry
it
about
was,
that.
we all acknowledge that he won.
Well,
So
he has one.
next, after, I'm going to say our last story is the Super Bowl, correct, Xavier?
That is right. The Kansas City Chiefs made Super Bowl history last Sunday with an overtime victory over the San Francisco 49ers. The Chiefs went into the game with a championship mindset and edged out the narrow victory. Patrick Mahomes made several historic achievements, putting him in the same company as the greatest. The halftime show hosted one of the biggest R&B stars of this generation and sparked a little controversy over the performance. We'll be back to discuss this and more, so stay tuned for more Jack Talk. Welcome back to Jack Talk. Sunday, over 115 million viewers tuned in to Super Bowl 58's battle between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers, with Kansas City pulling out a last-minute 22-25 victory in overtime. Much of the post-game talk was focused on Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes and if he has what it takes to lead Kansas City to a third championship. 49ers newcomer Brock Purdy was also under fire, as many suggest he might not be the right guy to lead a team of veteran players next season. In addition to the game, Usher's halftime show left fans talking, featuring acrobats and roller skaters, as well as a host of big names like Alicia Keys, Lil Jon, and Ludacris. It was a high-energy performance, but left many fans feeling a bit let down. As always, the commercials were also a source of debate as advertisers spent over $7 million per 30-second ad. And all eyes and cameras were watching Taylor Swift cheer her boyfriend Travis Kelce to eventual victory. Now, I know CJ here is a 49ers fan, so how'd you feel about the L, man?
That L, thanks. Every day I kind of been thinking about it. I swear, like a couple of nights ago, I dreamed that we won the Super Bowl, and I woke up and I was like, that is not reality, you know? I believe the team as a whole did really well. I think just towards those last minute, the Chiefs showed why they're the reigning champions. I think Patrick Mahomes led his team. Sometimes during the break, you could see him yelling, veins popping out of his neck at so many players. But that's what it takes to win. And as much as I hate to say it, the 49ers didn't have that. Now, Ellie, you were supporting the Chiefs. How do you feel?
I feel like they deserve their win. I also think that the 49ers was slacking a little because they let the last play happen. Like, they've done that before, and no one decided that they would do that again. They kind of just took it, and then they got that touchdown, and then somehow they won.
Yeah, I think everybody knew it was over when it went to OT and the 49ers went down and scored 3 points against Patrick Mahomes. That's when I knew, and I think the rest of the world knew that it was over because he was absolutely going to score and nobody was going to stop him. So for me, I'm personally excited seeing Patrick Mahomes because this will be the first time I'm seeing a player from like start to finish really like etch his legacy and possibly be the greatest of all time. So seeing that from beginning to end possibly, I think is really cool personally. But how do you feel about Brock Purdy? Do you think he's going to be the guy for the 49ers?
I honestly do. That was off his rookie season the year before, right? So he's still really young to the game, and we have so many offensive threats that I believe that next season we're still going to be a very powerful team. We still comfortably won our division. I don't see a lot of teams really stopping us. The only team I could say stops us is the Chiefs because, you know, after winning a Super Bowl that dramatically as well, they're going to have some appeal. And just wanting to play with Patrick Mahomes, the energy that he brings, and Andy Reid as a coach, you want to follow that. So, personally, I say every other team, they're not going to beat us. But, you know, there's a long season ahead in this offseason now.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to get better, especially when you look. This is probably the worst team Patrick Mahomes will have in his entire career. So just thinking about that and the fact that he still went through the MVP Lamar Jackson, he went through Josh Allen, and then went to the Super Bowl and won it back-to-back, and nobody's done that since Tom Brady back in, I believe it was 2002.
Yep.
So it's been 20 years, and he pulled that off with probably the worst team he'll ever have. So I think it's going to be very interesting.
Ellie, if you could pick a commercial from the Super Bowl, which one would you say was your favorite? I know mine.
I like the Elf one, but I like the Michael Cera one with the
Cera V.
Yes, because I thought it was hilarious, and I think the way he made it seem like they named it after him, and like how he somehow towards the end though is like it's his commercial and he's trying to tell them like, yeah guys, this is why I should be your spokesperson. What do you think? And they're like, no. I just thought that was really funny.
Xavier, what's your favorite?
I honestly didn't watch a single commercial outside of the trailers, so I didn't pay nothing. What I was really waiting for was Usher's halftime performance, which I was very satisfied with. Like he played almost all my favorite songs were played. The only person I was worried about was Alicia Keys, and I was rightfully worried because she messed up the first note so bad to where they're cutting out the note in like every time they post it, they're cutting out the note. Now.
NFL didn't. They posted the full.
They posted the whole thing. They're gonna edit it.
Her
too.
voice
I
crack
guarantee
was
you
right
they're
in
gonna
there.
edit it. Too.
Like it was. I'm a huge Alicia Keys fan, like
Me
since
too.
a little kid,
Yeah.
and yeah, that kind of hurt.
And it's
honestly.
always that song too.
It just kind of hurt. And in the terms of Usher, how do you think his performance went? Because I personally, I liked it. I liked Usher's performance. I liked the scene, like the costume changes. He could have did more with the acrobats, but I think he appealed to the audience that he grew up on, you know?
Yeah, I think the roller skates were a nice touch. I really liked the roller skates. I thought that was really cool.
It was something different.
And I don't think people understand how hard it is to sing and dance as much as he's doing and do it live. Like the past few halftime shows we've gotten, a lot of the performers aren't like, it's not live. So they're mainly just, I know Shakira's was mainly just dancing. She wasn't singing live. So I think what Usher did, I think it was a very great performance, and I'm excited for the next one.
Honestly, I want to say there was some controversy regarding the performance, right?
Yeah.
Because Alicia Keys is married.
Right.
Alicia Keys is married and been married for a while.
She has children. Yeah.
And Usher did his thing.
Yeah.
From no man's land. And I want to say her husband, Swiss Beats, he got on Twitter and had a
Yep.
whole rant about it and everything. So
If I was him, I wouldn't have said anything. I would just let it by because now that you said something, you just made it way worse. Man.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have said absolutely because Usher does that all the time.
I would have
his-
said I didn't watch the Super Bowl.
Well, and Alicia
Right.
Keys was just trying to play it cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your guys' takes, even though I don't agree with the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. But that's what's happening here, the state, and the nation. We here at Jack Talk are thankful that you decided to tune in with us. And today, we hope you'll be back next time. I'm Carl John Watson with Ellie Garcia and Xavier Lindsay. If you want to watch more Jack Talk episodes, go to our YouTube at JackTV SFA or Facebook.com/SFA Mass Communication. As always, East Texas, stay beautiful.